Here are 2 practical tests to tell if your reed is too hard or too soft. For a more in-depth discussion about reed strengths, be sure to check out my video on reed strengths. That one sort of talks about what reeds you should be using for what mouthpieces and all of that good stuff. Today, I want to give you some actual exercises that you can do to sort of test your reed. This is really important and really practical for if you know that you're in the right ballpark, you have the right reed strength for your mouthpiece, but you still aren't sure if you want to maybe go up a half strength or down a half strength, or maybe even if you're just trying to find exactly the right one in the box. Because even though it's a box of all 3s, there can be great variety in a hard 3 and a soft 3 that may be in the same box. So this is a really good test to sort of figure out if your reed is too hard or too soft. So starting with the test for if a reed is too hard, we are actually going to play very softly in the upper shallow and listen to the quality of the sound there. If your reed is too hard, it'll sound really airy, kind of breathy. It'll be hard to get a good clear sound at a soft dynamic in those upper shallow throat tone notes. And here's an example of that. So with a really hard reed, you can hear that it takes a lot of work to play softly. The sound is pretty airy and not clear and focused. And with a hard reed, you can make adjustments. You can make adjustments with a soft reed as well. You can put more embouchure pressure on a hard reed, blow a lot harder, and that'll help. But you don't want to be working that hard when you're playing. So with a hard reed in particular, you might be able to make adjustments to make it work. And I actually find sometimes if I warm up on a little bit harder reed and really figure out how to make it work in my warm up, then it can actually work pretty well throughout the practice. But still, it wouldn't be a reed that I necessarily want to perform on, because I want a reed that's going to make it easier for myself rather than having to like force it, be super tight, really like super strong with my air, because that's just not fun to play that way, and it makes it more challenging. And again, for practicing, like, you don't want to practice an hour on a reed like that, because then your lip is going to be dead and it's just going to be exhausting. Now, to test for a soft reed, we're actually going to do the opposite test. So this is a different reed that I have on now. I'm playing on a pretty closed tip opening mouthpiece, and this is a 2.5 reed. So if you've watched my reed strength video, you already know that that's probably going to be way too soft for this mouthpiece, but let's do the test. So I'm going to play some higher notes, higher clarion. Even better, if you're really comfortable with the altissimo, you can really go for the altissimo, but play those high notes really loud and see what happens to the sound. So first of all, this reed has a nice sort of kazoo-like quality to it, so that's already an indication that we don't like this reed. Even in the lower notes, you can hear like... It's okay, it's super easy to play, but it doesn't have that core to the sound. It's a little bit hollow. But on the high notes, and the loud high notes in particular, you could really hear it. Even when I went up to the B, it just like totally cut off the sound and didn't come out, and I had to open up my embouchure and actually back off my air pressure in order to get the sound to come out. So that is a really good indication that things are not working and the reed's too soft. Another way to sort of test that your reed is too soft is try playing, and this works for anything, but especially in the high loud notes, try playing and just put a little bit extra embouchure pressure on and see what happens. Usually it'll be something like this. It was like 10%, maybe 15% more embouchure pressure, and the sound just completely stopped. So we don't want that either when we're performing, because it's really easy when we're a little nervous and a little bit tight and tense that we may add that little bit of extra pressure and the note won't come out. Or maybe when we're starting notes and articulating, we're adding a little extra pressure at the beginning of the starts to notes, which we shouldn't be doing, but that happens when we're nervous, and it just happens kind of naturally if we're not really aware of it, and we might end up with really bad articulation. where it just feels like the notes aren't coming out and you're like, what the heck? Like, why isn't this working? Why aren't my notes coming out? When you're crossing the break, it doesn't work. The high notes sound bad. The soft reads can be a really bad time, just like hard reads. And again, if you really warm up with it and sort of get used to the adjustments that you need to make, then maybe you could practice on it. But again, for a performance, you want to find a reed that's going to help you and not hurt you. We have the hard reed that's making it so you have to force a lot, put a tons of extra pressure. Too soft of reed doesn't allow you to really support with good air or play maybe as loud and full as you want, and you have to constantly be opening up. So the goal is to find a reed that feels really good for how you like to play. Find a reed that works with exactly your embouchure pressure and your mouthpiece. Find a reed that doesn't have to take too much air, but at the same time has the flexibility. So when you really want to open up the sound and really blow and support, then you can, and it'll hold up to that. So it's all about finding that balance, especially for reed strength. There's a lot of other issues with reeds. We could talk about balancing or response and things like that, but the hardness and softness is sort of a good place to start and start experimenting with that and doing these tests. Sometimes responsiveness can sort of throw off how you feel, but these tests will be really revealing about how hard or soft your reed is. So if you can't play soft in the upper shallow with a clear focused sound, then your reed's probably too hard. If you can't play in the upper clarion or altissimo with a big, full, well-supported sound, then your reed's probably too soft. So try to find something that allows you to do both of those things for whatever piece you're going to have to be performing or whatever you're going to have to be playing, something that makes you feel good while you're doing it. All right, I hope that gives you a good sort of practical test for figuring out if your reeds are the right strength. Definitely check out the reed strength video if you need more guidance on what number reed might be good for your current setup and your current playing. But other than that, I think this was a great way to sort of test out a box of reeds and find the best reed for a performance by finding one that lets you do everything that you're going to need to do in the performance and feel good about it rather than having to fight with the reed and fight with the instrument. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in another one.